Today at the table, we have Michael Chernow, a well-known restaurateur, television personality, and author. You may have heard his name as the co-founder of the wildly successful restaurant chain, the Meatball Shop, which he founded in New York City in 2010 with his childhood friend, Daniel Holzman. But what you may not know is his battle with alcohol addiction, how he walked away from a $45 million business deal, and how that ultimately led to a 4-year rift between him and Daniel, which set him on a new path of self-discovery. It was a path filled with deep self-reflection and new routines, which would lead him to discover the one food that brought him out of a dark place: oats. So, besides knowing how to make amazing meatballs or creating viral brands, he has discovered what matters most in life: reconciling and maintaining important relationships. I think you'll enjoy the learnings in today's episode as much as we did. Oh, and you gotta make the meatball recipe we made together on YouTube. It's simple yet flavor-packed. Enjoy. We're just gonna jump right in. So, yeah, if you hear a whole bunch of eating noises for this podcast, y'all, it's because we just got done cooking the most amazing meatballs. Listen, I know I have about 6 different meatball recipes on my website. They're all trash.
Take them down.
Take them down. I'm taking these down because the meatballs I'm eating today are just amazing. And that's because we've got the meatball boss, the Meatball King, meatball guy, Mr. Meatball, whatever you want to call him. What I appreciate about you, Michael, is that whenever we had just a quick little chat just to kind of catch up, you were pretty candid about your story. And from the outside looking in, people would say, oh my God, he's just like this amazing story, just incredible rise and whatnot. It's just all like glitz and glam and success, but you've had a couple of bumps along the way. It wasn't easy to get to where you are now, right? Is that pretty fair?
I mean, I think that you said it very well. The people that we celebrate most, right, in different industries, you see all the things that are celebrated. What we don't really know is that those people that we celebrate have failed more than everybody else.
Yeah.
And so I spent a lot of years trying to trudge my way and figure it out, and when I was a young kid, I had a pretty rough childhood in regards to my home life. And so I was looking for ways to optimize. I was looking for ways to get out of that environment, and unfortunately for me was through drinking and using drugs.
Yeah.
And so I started doing that at a very young age when I was 12, 13 years old. And it really worked for me. It really did. I'm grateful for that, because who knows what would have happened if I did not find that.
Right.
But after a certain point, it completely stopped working for me. I didn't feel freedom. I didn't feel happier. I didn't feel motivated. It was the exact opposite. It completely stopped working for me, and I felt absolutely miserable. And I had not an ounce of self-love. And I lived in that place for probably 5 or 6 years until I figured out a way to think, by the grace of God, get sober.
Yeah.
And so I've been sober now for 18 years.
With that, I kind of want to just start there. You said something at the very beginning of this. You said a lot of success is based upon failure, and you fail a whole lot. Now, I know you've been interviewed by a whole lot of people. This is at the table, so I kind of want to just peel back the onion, and I don't want something that people have heard before. I want you to feel free, hopefully, maybe to share some stuff about your story that people can't find on Google, because there's quite a bit out there on your story. But when we were talking, I'm like, none of this was in that Wikipedia. None of this was on Google. I want you to take me back to, you had all this massive success, and you said something during our conversation. You said, I stepped away in order to preserve a friendship and to preserve a relationship. And that resonated with me, because as a business owner, and maybe you too, Jesse, is working with people that you love, working with people who are friends and who are close. You would think that stuff is going to work out, and you'd want it to. And it's really hard to kind of just live in the reality that this is not working.
I think we all go through what we go through to get to where we're at.
Yeah.
And if you run away from your life and you don't face fear head on, the chances are you're not gonna reach your potential. So I don't like to look at it as necessarily a failure, the partnership debacle between Daniel and I, but more as a stepping stone in my career as an entrepreneur, right? So Dan and I grew up together. We were, we were best friends as kids. We both got a job in a restaurant at the same time. He was 13, I was 12. We worked in restaurants for our whole lives, and we always had this dream. He lived on 83rd between 1st and 2nd. I lived on 87th between 1st and 2nd. His mother worked in the same. They were secretaries in doctors' offices in the same building.
Wow.
His dad was, not crushing it financially, and my dad was dead broke. So like we had a lot in common. We didn't. We didn't come from a lot of money, and we went to public school together, and we knew that, we had to work in restaurants if we wanted to have money in our pockets. And so we had this bond immediately, and it was inseparable, right? Like we were truly, like inseparable best friends. And we said when we were like 16, we were like, we're going to open up a restaurant together. That's just going to be what it is. And so he moved out to California, worked in a bunch of fancy restaurants out there. I worked in a bunch of great restaurants in New York. And when I graduated culinary school, and I also took this restaurant management degree at my culinary school, I graduated and I said, all right, dude, it's time. Mm-hmm. Like I was 27, he was 28. We were still young, of course, but I was like, let's just do this, dude. You and I have put in our time. We've been working in restaurants since we're 12. We should take a stab at this. So it took me about a year to get him back here, back to New York. And like you just said, right? Like, you've got a friend, you got a family member. When you go into this, you think it's just going to work out. And chances are, like, the partnership that Daniel and I embarked in together could have worked if we would have done a few things differently, But regardless, we opened up the Meatball Shop together, and it was enormously successful from the day we opened the door. The day we opened the door, there was 200 people online waiting to eat, and that line did not stop for years.
That's amazing.
At 3:30 in the morning on the Lower East Side between Stanton Street and Allen, there was a line halfway around the block for years, people waiting for meatballs. All night, it was insane. We were cooking meatballs within the first year on Jay Leno, Jimmy Fallon, Chelsea Handler, Good Morning America multiple times, Today Show. It was like a phenomenon. It was crazy, And that was a lot for the two of us. We ended up opening up a bunch of meatball shops, and as we were doing that, Daniel and I just started to bump heads for a whole variety of reasons, right? Like two guys, first business, success. But anyway, it was really, really difficult. It was really hard for me. I was also married, and there was pressure from being married, and my life went from working 4 to 5 days a week in a restaurant to 7 days a week, 18 hours a day. And my wife was basically just like, I need you. Daniel was like, you need to be here. It was tough. Yeah. And so we couldn't see eye to eye on how to grow the business outside of New York. And so basically, two things happened. We got an offer from a really big private equity fund to put in an enormous amount of money to help us grow the business. We would each take a bunch of money off the table. And it was like an enormous amount of money. Like you're talking, these two guys, Daniel Holzman and Michael Chernow, put their life savings of $20,000 each into a business. We raised an additional $350,000, and these guys had offered us $45 million.
Wow,
an obscene amount of money. 3 years after opening this restaurant.
Yeah.
And I looked at them, I looked at Dan, and I was like, dude, this is life-changing. We need to do this. We got to do this. These guys they're not going to buy the whole company. They're going to buy 60% of the company. You and I are going to change our lives financially, and we're still going to own 40% of the company. We're still going to get a big fat salary, and we're going to grow this thing all over the country. And he was like, if they're willing to offer us $45 million now, wait until we open up 2 more restaurants or 3 more restaurants over the next year and a half, and then it's going to be worth $75 million, $100 million. And I was like, yeah, dude, but right now this is an opportunity. And I would much rather own 40% of a $500 million company, because that's how much it's going to be worth after these guys roll it out, then, you know, whatever. We just couldn't see eye to eye, and I couldn't convince him, and we didn't do the deal. Not because it was all about the money, but because I thought I saw that being the future of my life and my career, right? Yeah. And I couldn't convince him, and his, you know, and the board was made up of, you know, his brother and a couple of other guys that I couldn't convince either. They thought it was worth more money. And so that was kind of like the beginning of the end of my like happiness there. And then, you know, when that deal didn't happen, you know, we were thinking about where we were going to open up the next restaurant. And because Daniel and I were so good at press, we were so good at media, like anytime media came, like the two of us, boom, just turned on, and we were the Meatball guys. And I knew that that was a massive part of our success. And so when we were thinking about where the next restaurant should go outside of New York, I was like, LA, obviously. Like, that's where the media is. That's where like, you go to LA, you're just it's gonna be like New York all over again, you know? And he wanted to open up in, you know, in Connecticut and Long Island and New Jersey. And I was like, dude, like, we're not gonna get any attention there. We didn't see eye to eye on that either. And it was killing me. It was killing me. I was miserable. It turned into a personal thing between the two of us. And I just knew that if I didn't step down, he wasn't gonna step down. And I knew that I had to make a change. I knew, and with that though, even though it was so hard for me to make that decision, and I'm telling you, man, like it was one of the hardest. It was one of the hardest parts of my life. Like if I be really honest, you know, I ride a motorcycle. There were days where I'd get on my bike in the Lower East Side, or at one of our stores in Chelsea or whatever. I'd get on my bike. I'd be on the Williamsburg Bridge. I would open the thing up 120 miles an hour, and I'm like, if I make one small move, it's over. You know, do I care? Like, do I care? Like, this was like the voices that were going through my head. And it was really hard, man. It was really hard, you know. But I'm grateful for it. Similarly to the way I'm grateful for my father being an abusive father. Similarly to the way I'm grateful for my drug and alcohol abuse, because like I said, you know, we kind of got to go through what we go through to get to where we're at. And I wouldn't be the guy I am today. And I can honestly say in front of you guys and whoever else is listening, like, I love the guy you're seeing. Like, I really do. I love myself, you know, and I know that it took a lot of pain to understand that love was available there. Right. But I wouldn't change it, you know? And so we ended up breaking up. And then I opened up Seymour's, and that was awesome, you know?
Even though you didn't take that deal and things are kind of pretty tight around you and your business partner and your friend, and you're not seeing eye to eye, just on the expansion opportunities, like, that's a great problem to have. It's a great problem to be thinking about. Well, first off, you can turn down a $45 million offer. It's a great problem to think about, like, expansion opportunities. You're not seeing, you know, like, where. But in the midst of all this growth and happiness, you're thinking the thoughts in your mind about, like, ending it all. Can you explain that? I'm not even sure if you call it like a dichotomy or just it just doesn't. Why?
I think it's a culmination of a few things that were going on for me. I'm sober, and I was sober. I don't have the opportunity to, like, have a shitty day and then, like, go grab a drink. So for me, no matter what is going on in my life, I am taking it at pure face value, no added ingredients. At that stage in my life where there was all this pressure, for the first time in my life, really getting hit with a lot of pressure, totally new, didn't have the tools that I have now, I let my ego, like, at times completely monopolize my mindset. And my ego wants to kill me all the time. You know what I mean? My ego is like that voice in my head that's kind of just like, you suck, dude. You know, like, you should just throw in the towel. You don't need to do that. Why would you want to do that? You're you know, it's like, you're not good enough for that, man. You know, and that's the ego. Your ego tells you that you're not good enough, so you take it out on your kids. You know, that's ego. Yeah. And my ego did get the best of me, and still does at times if I don't check it on a regular basis. So when I was going through that, my ego literally was saying in my head, like, if you were good enough you would be the one in control at the business. You wouldn't feel like you were walking in on your heels. You wouldn't feel pressured from your partner and the board. But you suck, so this is, you might as well just like if you make one little turn, it'll all be over. Like these were the thoughts that I was like experiencing at times going over that Williamsburg Bridge. I remember like it was yesterday. It was terrible, and it wasn't like suicidal. It was more like, man, like.
You just wanted it to go away.
When people saw it from the outside, just like you said, like when you were looking at it, when it was happening, it's like, oh my God, the Meatball guys, like they're killing it. And really, it's funny. The way I correlate it to is like this. You got your favorite band when you were a kid. Favorite band, you listen to the music, these people that you think are just killing it. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, like, they don't drop an album for years. And you're like, what the fuck happened to them? Uh-huh. Yeah. They were so good. What happened to them? Yeah. And they're like, oh, yeah, like the lead singer, got into a fight with the drummer. Mm-hmm. And they just ended it, right. And you're like, what? How could that happen? Right. They were so good. Yeah. It's interesting how that happens, Yeah. But the beauty of it all is that I was able to come to terms with it, man up a little bit, open up a second business, crush it, and in 2019, show up at Daniel's doorstep and give him a massive hug, tell him how much I love him and how much I missed him, and we're best friends again.
That's beautiful, bro. Yeah. So y'all did stop talking for a little bit?
4 years.
Yeah. 4 years. Uh-huh. Yeah. That's an incredible story, first off. Thank you for open enough to share that.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, props for one, stepping away when you knew it was time to, but not, I guess, maybe at the time you thought you were going to sever that relationship for forever. But 4 years later, I feel like that's not that long of a time to come back and reconcile and say, hey, like, at the end of the day, like, we should still be friends,
Yeah.
It was a moment for me where I was like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Why would I? Yeah, we didn't agree in business. I spent years of my life thinking of this person as my brother, trusting him with every cell in my body. Why would I just like not even attempt to have that again? Deep, intimate, personal relationships, as we get older, are harder and harder to cultivate. Personal relationships and the success in the quality of the personal relationships we have are a direct correlation to our happiness and longevity. Direct. It's a proven scientific fact. There is the longest standing human study ever performed. It started in 1938. It's still going to this day. Out of this study that started with 700 men in Boston, the ones that are been consistently happy are the ones that have great personal relationships. Period. Done. Doesn't matter how much money they have or don't have. Doesn't matter how many things they have or don't have. Doesn't matter how well they did in business or not. What is their community like and the quality of it? That is going to determine happiness,
I really love that. Like, I honestly do. I was just thinking from a faith perspective. It talks about do not forsake the fellowship of the saints. People always interpret that like, okay, like you got to go to church, but I just think it's the communal aspect that we miss and totally. and that we need, right? And how it is in faith, I feel like that's the same way in other parts of our lives. Like when you look at the wellness journey, isn't your wellness journey that much better when you have a workout partner or you have someone to share that with? Right. When you go golfing, don't you have your golf buddies to go and do that? Like it makes that experience that much better. But when you have people around you who are like-minded, it just makes that journey that much better. It's not necessarily the bitterness that holds us back. It's the unforgiveness. It's the unresolved issues there. And so even just for your own sanity, for your own mental wellness, for your own peace of mind, like it's worth it to reconcile.
Yeah, even to get that weight off your own chest because it's bearing on you. Maybe it's not on the other person or maybe they haven't thought twice about it, but...
I would take it a step further and I would say, somebody said to me a long time ago, like right when I got sober pretty much, first 6 months, he said that resentment is the death of all good things. Mm-hmm. And he said resentment is the dark room where we develop our negatives. And I was like, at the time I didn't know what that meant. But I stayed sober and I couldn't drink my problems away anymore. So like my feelings were real in my like, booyah, like right there, all like I was like a raw nerve, you know? The minute that you spend resentful in your life is the minute you don't spend happy. So like, think about that. Would you rather be resentful and unhappy or happy? You have a choice. And the best way to bury that shit is to give that person a hug. Straight up. I have buried resentment. Sometimes I've had to do it over and over again with the same person, because if you have a deep, intimate relationship with somebody, let's call it a marriage, like I have, my wife is going to be resentful at me about things. Yeah. You know? Beginning of the pandemic, we had never spent so much time together.
Like everybody.
We had never spent. And she started telling me, like after a few months, she was like, I just have to tell you something. She was like, you make this noise that I cannot handle anymore.
I'm resentful for another reason. I need to get this off my chest.
And she was like, it's driving me crazy. And I was like, what? And she was like, you go like this. And I was like, wait, so I've been doing this.
That's definitely a couple's thing. Like,
but you know, and it hurt and it sucked, because I was like, wait a second, you're mad at me and you've been thinking about this of something that I subconsciously just do, and you didn't tell me like immediately. So you've been wasting energy and time, frustrated about this thing, when you could have just told me, and I could have at least be more mindful of it, you know? Yeah. But, you know, resentment is like, it's truly the death of all great things.
I was watching this one reality show one time. I like a lot of reality TV because I'm fascinated by people. And the person was talking about, and that's why we have a problem. And the other person said, all right, if you have a problem with me and I don't know about it, we don't have a problem. Right. You have a problem.
It's so true. That's it.
And I thought that was the best way to, I was like, you know what? That is well said.
So smart.
We don't have a problem. You have a problem. And I think we carry that. All right. So just as we wrap up here with this discussion, what did that look like for you? You just said we just showed up at his doorstep. What did it take to get there? What did you do to get to that point where you could go to that doorstep?
I really missed my friend. I really missed him. Like I get emotional just thinking about it. Like I really missed him. We had so much. We built something really amazing together. And though, it didn't, the business worked out, still working out 13 years later, but it didn't work out between us. And I wore that as a failure for a while. And I was like, no, man, this is not a failure. Like, you need your friend back, like, don't just chalk this up as a failure and move on with your life. Like, friendship is worth so much more than money, right? Like, and I could probably count on two hands the amount of people that I would want to go away on a vacation with. Yeah. And he's one of them. Yeah. And I was depriving myself of that kind of brotherhood. Why would I not attempt to have this person who I genuinely love, like genuinely, out of my life?
Did he feel the same way?
Yeah.
He did?
It was amazing.
That's good.
It was like we both cried.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you turn the meatball experience into seafood, and then you turn that into these amazing oats. Mm-hmm. Tell me about meal one.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
How that came about from this experience.
It came out of my sobriety story.
Yeah.
So when I got sober, I was fitness, nutrition, mindset, that none of that stuff played any role in my life. I mean, it couldn't have been more of the opposite, quite frankly. And I got really lucky when I got sober, and I linked up. I got introduced to a couple of really cool sober guys who took me under their wing as like their little brother. I was like, whoa, is this what sobriety is? Like, these dudes were covered in tattoos. They were Muay Thai kickboxing assassins. And I was like, wow, like, all right, maybe there's something here for me. They basically said, all right, here's the deal, kid. Like, We can help you. We can give you a plan. And so they said, you're going to wake up in the morning, and the first thing you're going to do is you're going to get on your knees and ask God for help. And I was like, I've never had to do that before. I didn't grow up in a religious household, so I don't know anything really about it, but sure. Like, if I need to ask God for help, let's go, God. I need help, man. And they were like, but also what you should know is that it's not about just asking God for help. It's you don't know how to ask for help as a human being. But they were basically like, just get on your knees and ask for help. Go for a run. It could be a block. It could be a mile. It could be 10 miles. But just move your body. And then as soon as you get back from that run, have a hot bowl of oatmeal. And when you're done with that oatmeal, you're going to meet us at this meeting. And then after that meeting, we're going to go to the gym. And then you're going to have chicken and broccoli for lunch. And you're going to go take a nap. And then you're going to wake up. You're going to go to work, because I was working in the restaurants. You're going to go to work, and you're going to have chicken and broccoli for dinner whenever you can. And you're going to go to sleep as early as you can. And before you go to bed, you're going to hit your knees again, and you're going to say thank you. And I was like, man, if that's what it's gonna take if like that's what I have to do to like change my life and be like a person that I don't hate, let's go.
Yeah.
And so that's what I started doing. And oatmeal was a big part of this changing my life for positivity.
Yeah.
It was a tangible. I didn't obviously realize it until I came up with the business Creatures of Habit, but it was a tangible symbol of positivity and hope for me. And so I've been eating oatmeal as my first meal of the day till this very day. So it's 18 and a half years later. I typically have chicken and broccoli for lunch every day with a couple of other things. And now my dinner is always a wild card. But, I was nutrition, fitness, and mindset became the cornerstone of my personal happiness.
Yeah.
And there's obviously bouts in my life throughout sobriety where I struggled and I failed and I fell. And so after Seymour's, I sold some equity at Seymour's in 2019. I just knew in my heart of hearts that I needed to align my personal passion for wellness to my business passion. And I needed those two things to merge. And I knew that it was going to be really hard for me to do it scaling restaurants. And then it all came to me on one run. I said, it's kind of crazy going from owning 14 restaurants to making oatmeal with protein. But man, like if there's anything authentic to me that really was a catalyst for change in my life, or as a catalyst for hope, where I knew that I went to bed at night thinking that if I just have that bowl of oatmeal in the morning, I know I'm going to be okay. It was weird, but it became this this is the first thing that you're putting into your body every day. I wanted to package it because obviously over the years I've added things to it. So now it's gluten and glyphosate-free oats. It's 30 grams of plant-based protein. It's chia seeds, flax seeds, pumpkin seeds, little pink Himalayan salt for electrolytes. It's got an amazing probiotic in it, digestive enzymes, vitamin D3, and omega-3 fatty acids. And you make it overnight. You just pour it into a jar. You add some almond milk to it. You throw it in the fridge. You pull it out in the morning. It takes literally 10 seconds to make and no seconds to eat. And it's delicious, and it's a full satiating meal. We get one day.
Yeah.
One day to paint. You can't paint yesterday's mural because it's already dry and done. And the future, impossible. Yeah. So you get one day to paint. So let's paint a good picture. Let's paint a good picture. Anyone can change at any time. It doesn't matter how far gone you are. And there's only one person that can do it for you.
Yeah.
It's not your friends. It's not your family. It's not your boyfriend, husband, girlfriend, wife. It's not your kids, even though, you think it may be your kids. Oh, I got to change for my kids. Your kids are not going to have any impact on your consistency and change. So,
That's Michael, it's just incredible story, like all around.
is, yeah.
And now I understand the creatures of habit because I wanted you to explain that. But
Yeah.
understanding the origin story now with you meeting those guys and them giving you this plan, you've been with habits your entire life. Some of
Yeah.
them were not so good.
Yeah.
But this one is actually leading to a fullness of life. Have you heard of a blue zone before?
I mean, like blue zones, like in Okinawa and stuff like that.
Yeah. There's actually blue zones here in the U.S. too. There's one in California,
Yeah.
and I bring that up because I actually got to spend some time in a blue zone interviewing this couple, and I forget the city in California, but it's a Seventh-day Adventist type of community out there, and the people there tend to live to 100 years old. They have one meal in the morning time. You know what that meal is?
Oats.
Every single day.
That's awesome.
Every single day, this community, they eat oats. And they put in some of the same things you're talking about it. And she talked about, how filling and enriching it is, how comforting it is, but also just how healthy it is. Mm-hmm. So I don't think it's by coincidence that you're talking about how oats kind of really just became this hallmark part of your life that was pretty informative in your whole transformation.
I believe that structure is the key to freedom. I would much rather know what I like and what I don't than what I would much rather know the difference between the things that I like and the things that I don't like. And I also really want to know what I have to do. I want to know what I have to do, because when you know what you have to do, you don't have to waste time worrying about what you should do.
Yeah.
So many people get stressed out and worry about, what should I eat? What should I figure out a way to just alleviate that?
Simplify.
People, I think probably out of all the stuff that I've done, I mean, this, your business is built on healthy eating. So many people battle with this question. What should I eat? What if you just didn't have to worry about that? Like at least 2 out of the 3 meals a day. Whether it's with food, with a schedule, with time blocking, I believe that structure really does give us the most opportunity to experience happiness and freedom, because we don't have to worry about what we should.
What's next for you, man?
Really, man, I think my career is going to be creating brands, because I love doing that, obviously. I love creating brands. I love creating community and culture. And I love connecting with guys like you just to be able to spread the message of positivity. If you can't honestly say that my journey in life is really about self-love so that I can learn to love and be loved, I think that you ought to think more about that.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Well, let's go ahead and toast
Yeah. Cheers.
to habits.
Habits.
Healthy habits. That's it for today. Catch up on earlier episodes of At the Table wherever you choose to get your podcasts. And you can also watch full episodes on youtube.com/fitmencook. And for daily inspiration, follow Fitman Cook on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Until next time, keep it healthful, but never, ever boring. Boom.